What's poppin', guys? So you guys loved the last video that I did like this, where I literally just pulled up my mic, turned on my camera, and uploaded a video of me talking about stuff. Last video was me talking about the Randy Finkner problem in Pittsburgh for football. But today we're switching up to the NBA, as you guys can tell by the title. So first thing I'm gonna talk about real quick. I know this is titled about the NBA draft, but I literally just got a notification like 2 minutes ago saying that Klay Thompson has tore his Achilles. I wish I would have known that like an hour ago, because I could have done a completely other video, because I could probably talk for 20 minutes about how that impacts next season. Obviously, they just drafted James Wiseman, which I'll get into in a little bit, but now they don't really have a guard. And now they kind of have. I know one of the biggest things the Warriors were trying to do is, I mean, they weren't saying it publicly, but we all knew it. Wiggins is a 27 or 28 million dollar contract, and Warriors don't want that on their books, especially because of, you can probably get a solid player out of Wiggins just because of how big his contract is. They were probably trying to move him for that like foundational piece that can definitely put them into a championship run. But now they kind of need Wiggins, because the biggest thing that Wiggins can offer them now is wing defense, now that Klay's gone, because Steph's not going to defend. Draymond's declining just with age. Like, they really needed Klay, and it sounds like he's just going to miss the entire season because he tore his Achilles. I mean, obviously that immediately doesn't count the Warriors in for contention for a title anymore, which kind of sucks, just because, like, it's really interesting. I was really looking forward to this next season, because, like, all these teams were going to be healthy again, and the West wasn't. It was going to be completely different. Like, the Warriors weren't even a factor last year, and we saw all these great storylines. Like, you had Denver, you had Utah. I know Utah got swept in the first round, but still, it was a great story. You had the Suns, who were probably now going to take the Warriors' spot because of the whole CP3 trade. Like, there were so many. You had Portland, who actually went on a big run. I was one of the people that thought they could maybe even beat LeBron and the Lakers. I was very wrong, but, like, just that Klay injury has so many implications and effects on the Warriors, like, and just the NBA in general, especially in the West. So I mean, that really sucks. Prayers up to Klay. Like, hopefully you get better. If this really, I can't imagine what he's going through. I mean, he was on the verge of coming back from that horrible injury he had in the finals against the Raptors. So I mean, I can't even imagine what's going through his head right now, because he was so excited to get back into basketball. But shout out to Klay. Feel better, man. Praying for you. But the main thing this video is about. So last night was the NBA draft, and boy, oh boy, was that boring. Obviously, one of the biggest like things that we knew going into this draft was it was a 3-person draft. Honestly, like, this draft really, I think that's one of the nicest things about March Madness is when there's the tournament, you really get to find names that, like, no one would really expect. I think one of the biggest showings of this is, like, Ja Morant. Like, I'm not saying Ja Morant isn't great or he wasn't great and before the tournament happened. It just, no one, like, he was not a top 2, top 3 pick in that draft before March Madness happens. You see him ball out, you're like, holy crap, this kid is a top 3 talent. Obviously we knew Zion was going first. Everyone knew that. But the tournament, like, really helps players' stocks rise, and they help show, like, there are all these upsets. Like, there's an upset every single year. Like, Duke will lose, or Kentucky will lose, or Kansas will lose. It just happens every single year. And so without that tournament, we really had no idea who these prospects are. We know them from a couple of games in the college, but, like, playing college basketball games is so different from playing college games is so different from the tournament, because the tournament just has, like, a different feel. Teams approach. That's why there's so many upsets. Like, if the tournament was just how, like, regular seasons were, it would be the top 1 seeds, and literally in the final 4, and then the championship would be both 1 seeds. So I don't know. I mean, Anthony Edwards went first. Everyone was kind of expecting that to happen. I don't think anyone really realistically thought LaMelo was going to go first, or James Wiseman. Like, why would the Timberwolves take James Wiseman when they have Cat? Like, no one was expecting that. It's funny. We got the announcement yesterday that about the Klay injury. Well, it's not funny, but we found out about the injury before the draft happened. And I was actually really curious because we knew it was a lower leg injury. It was probably a torn Achilles. We weren't for sure, though. And I was wondering, I was like, are the Warriors going to take LaMelo Ball? are they gonna take a guard here because Klay's gonna be out? And I mean, LaMelo, he's a 6'7". They think he can be up to 6'9". He has obviously all of his like shooting issues. His shooting splits while he was in Australia were really bad, but I mean, he still has a jump shot. I mean, that was like that's kind of like what got him famous, was his ability to score, especially from the 3-point line. So I was really curious, but obviously they didn't. I still agree that the Warriors, I think it's a good pick even with the Klay injury. I think James Wiseman is like, they haven't had a real true center. The last true center that the Warriors kind of had was like Bogut, but he wasn't a scorer. He was literally just there for defense. That was the only reason that the Warriors had. I mean, you don't really need a scoring big man when you had, Klay at the time. You had Klay, Steph, and I mean, Harrison Barnes was a very underrated player for that team. So they didn't need a scoring center. And now you have James Wiseman, who not only is he a defensive presence, but he does have a jump shot. He's 7'1" with a 7'6" wingspan, so that's also one of the biggest centers that the Jazz have had in a long time. So, not the Jazz. What? Hello? The Warriors have had in a long time. So that I'm really interested to see how it's going to work. And then obviously the Hornets drafted LaMelo. I'm really not going to talk about any of the other draft picks because I mean I feel like most people, not just me, like most people don't know what these players are. Right? That's why I love March Madness, because this is like when people really get to scout these players, because there's a competitive nature. It's kind of like people say you play the way you practice. I do not agree with that at all. I know so many people who are the laziest motherfuckers in practice because they just like, it's practice, who cares? I know I'm talented. And then in the game, they go ball out. Like, and in my opinion, the regular season for college... Hello? What is going on? The TV randomly turned on. Oh yeah, if it isn't obvious, I'm not home. I will not be home for the next couple of days, so the podcast tomorrow might be shorter and like this. But what was I talking about? We don't like, that's the great, in my opinion. I just had a minor stroke. In my opinion, like the college basketball regular season it's basically just practice, and then the bracket itself is the actual game. I like how I just struggled for like an entire minute straight there. But yeah, and so that's how I see it. And so, you really can't judge, because I mean, like I was saying with the whole, you don't play the way you practice. The actual game itself, and like the tournament, the March Madness tournament, like it just has a different feeling to it. So you kind of perform in a different way. You have the adrenaline rushing through your body. You really want to, especially for the lower seeded teams, like you really want to upset these higher seeded teams. And even the higher seeded teams, there's a pressure on them to blow out these lower seeded opponents. So even if it's like a close game, there's going to be all these articles written about you about how you should have blown them up by 20, but you only won by 6. Like there's pressure on all sides. So yeah, I'm really only going to be talking about the first 3 picks. Again, I really the biggest name was LaMelo. We've been talking about LaMelo since I was in high school, which is nuts. Now I'm old. That's crazy. But I really did. I think LaMelo's a little too overrated. I think he's in a worse situation than Lonzo was, because Lonzo, people were always expecting Lonzo to be like a top 5, top 10 pick. And honestly, his dad was what put all the pressure on him to be taken number 2 overall. But I mean, realistically, he probably still would have been a top 10 pick, but it probably would have been like 5 to 10. Like pick 5 to 10 is probably where he would have fallen. I think that would have been much better for him. But because of his dad, there was so much pressure. But that wasn't Lonzo's fault. That was all fabricated by his dad. But with LaMelo, there's kind of a mixture of like the fabrication of reality from his dad, and also like LaMelo is not the most humbled person in the world. So I think that actually, I really do think LaMelo's in a worse situation here, especially because like he just got drafted to MJ's team. That has to have so much pressure there too. Like people are looking at him like he's going to be the MJ of the Hornets, which they are 2 completely different styles of players. So don't expect that, please. But I was not high on LaMelo, man. I think he should have been a top 10 pick, but I think it should have been more like, again, like kind of like Lonzo, like 5 to 10 range. He's, in my eyes, he's really immature. Like I think one of the best showings of this is his dad has this reality show. It's called Ball in the Family, and like follows them around, which I'm sure could be really annoying when you're 16 years old. But like the disrespect he just shows everybody, like, and how immature he acts. And even like, okay, when he was like 16 and they first started filming this, I could understand. You're 16. Every 16-year-old's a douchebag in their own opinion. I was a douchebag when I was 16. Everybody is. But like when they're like 18, 19 and they're still kind of acting immature, like that should be a red flag. So like I really don't think, and that's the thing that sucks about lottery teams, is that lottery teams are always in the lottery because they're never improving, because it's not that, oh, we had an issue. It's usually like with a player or a coach. It's usually a team-based issue. Why do you guys think the Cavs are always in the lottery? Why do you guys think the Knicks are always in the lottery? The Hornets, like, it's because it's a team-run issue. It's not the coaching or the players. And so most of the time, I feel really bad for certain players that get drafted. Like, it's like the NFL. I mean, there's shitty teams for a reason. So you're probably not going to develop how you will unless you're star-based talent. And the only reason that I bring this up is because there was one team that I thought should have drafted LaMelo Ball, because I think that they were the only team that could have made him mature, and the only team that he could have probably, like, it would have taken him a couple years to develop, but like he probably could have been like the next star or like the next man up for that team. And that's the Warriors. I know I was just saying that LaMelo, in my opinion, is a 5'10", like a pick 5 to 10 draft pick, but he wasn't going to fall that far just because like name association alone, you're going to sell tickets for that reason once COVID all passes. But like the Warriors, they are a no nonsense system. I think like the Warriors are like the fun version of the Patriots, where like they're strict, but you can go have fun, and like everyone looks like they're enjoying themselves, but I mean they're winning games for a reason. And I think like the best spot for LaMelo, the person, I don't think this would have been the best spot for the Warriors after the Klay injury. I actually don't know, but the best spot for LaMelo, the person, would have been Golden State, just because they would have developed him. They probably would have built, because like I think he's 180 pounds, 6'7". Like I'm 180 pounds. I'm 6'3". So like he's got 4 inches on me. So I mean that's pretty skinny for 6'7". And so they'd probably put muscle on him, and they would probably develop his more like deep post game. You're 6'7". If you're a 6'7" shooting guard, or even a 6'7" point guard, you should have some post moves in your arsenal. And I'm sure the Warriors would totally develop that. The Warriors have one of the best development systems in the game. So I mean, for LaMelo's sake, I really am kind of rooting for LaMelo, even though he just comes across as like this, like he doesn't really care, and he does kind of come off as like a jerk sometimes, and he's just really immature. And so like even though he comes off that way, I still want to root for him because I feel bad for all the Ball brothers because of all the pressure that their dad has put on them. I mean, I've kind of shout out to LeVar, because like he did produce 3 NBA caliber players, because Jello's in the G League right now. But like I still feel bad for LaMelo and Lonzo, and in this case for LaMelo, like again, his dad just putting all this pressure on him. I think LaMelo going to Australia was probably the best thing he could have done. I think going to college would have been too much of a distraction for LaMelo, but and he had his flashy moments in the Australian League. Obviously, his shooting splits weren't good, but like I think going to Europe and going to like the Australian leagues are really, really good for younger players, because they get to play like people who really like they're fighting for their jobs. It's not like, oh, I'm a college player, there's maybe someone better than me on the bench, but I'm probably going to be the starter. Like that's not how it works. And so I think that was pretty good for LaMelo. But yeah, in my opinion, the best spot for LaMelo would have been the Warriors. I don't think the Warriors' best prospect would have been LaMelo. I think James Wiseman fits perfectly. I know I haven't really talked about Anthony Edwards, but like I really don't know again what to really expect from Anthony Edwards. I think it'll be interesting with him, D'Angelo, and Cat. I think it's gonna be really interesting seeing D'Angelo as a primary ball handler again, because we really didn't see that much last year because he was with the Warriors and he was kind of doing more coming off the ball. Oh wait, no, that was a lie. I totally forgot Steph was injured. Never mind. But I don't know, man. Anthony Edwards, this draft was like kind of sucked. Just again, I think the biggest reason it sucked is because we didn't have the tournament. So we didn't get any name notoriety. So if we had the tournament, I'm sure I would have been talking about like other players or other prospects, but there really wasn't much to expect from this draft. And it kind of sucks that that's the case, but that's what we got. The NBA season, I'm pretty sure they've announced, is the 21st of December. Or no, it's January, I think. And I know that preseason starts on, I think, December 11th. So that's less than a month away. So that's really weird. Really curious how this is going to go. Let's see. Early pick for Rookie of the Year. I'm just going to go James Wiseman just because he's going to probably start right away. The Warriors have a good system, and if Klay is injured, they need someone else to score, and they might try to develop Wiseman as fast as possible. Highest risk for bust, probably LaMelo, just because of the Hornets system. I still don't understand how a team that is owned by Michael Jordan can produce so many busts and can never be a consistently good team. So I really don't know what to expect. I don't know. I just had a couple of thoughts about the draft, mainly just like this was a 3-person draft and, kind of how I saw these players. So yeah, if you guys, I know like half of my audience are Jazz fans because y'all are from Utah. So I know you guys picked up Udoza Azubuike. I think I'm saying that somewhat right. But I don't know why you guys picked him up. I mean, he's a center. You guys don't really need a center, especially because he can't shoot. But maybe you guys are just looking for like a defensive spark off the bench when Rudy's sitting. But anyway, what I was going to is I'm curious what you guys have to think about the draft. Like what you guys think about the top 3 picks, or if you guys think I'm sleeping on anybody, or if you think I'm just completely wrong about LaMelo, or if you think I'm on the nose about LaMelo, please let me know. Like I said, you guys showed love to the last video where I just did this. And so, yeah, expect more of these. It's also just kind of nice to, like I said this in the last video, it's kind of nice to just turn on the camera, turn on the mic, sit down, and talk. So, yeah. Tonight is football night. It's Seattle versus Arizona. Kyler's still my MVP frontrunner. I said that from the beginning of the year. Switching up sports real quick. So we'll probably talk about that on the podcast that will come out Saturday. Probably won't be a longer episode of the podcast, honestly. It'll probably just be like one segment and then wallet winners. Just because this happened last minute. My dad was out of town, or he is heading out of town. He needed someone to watch his house for me, so that's me. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know your guys' thoughts on everything that I said. I really am curious because I really want to hear what people think about this draft, and also just kind of like what you guys think about my thoughts. So, all right, cool. Still don't know how to end these. So